The wind shifts and your body feels it before anything comes into view. A chill creeping up your neck, pressure building in your ears. You're in your car on Highway 81, the camera fixed on the horizon, and what begins to form ahead freezes everything. El Reno is there, massive, rotating, a wall of darkness swallowing half the sky. The route was calculated. It always is. 15 years of this, the numbers make sense. Everything should be under control. Then it changes. No model predicted this. The tornado doesn't follow its path. In seconds it shifts, expands, and moves straight toward you. Its width doubling in real time, stretching past 3 kilometers. And that's when it hits you. This road was never safe. The engine is already running. Your hand hesitates for half a second. That could cost everything. Around you, other vehicles break into panic. And above the roar swallowing the world, only one command remains: run. If you want to feel what it's really like to be inside moments like this, subscribe and leave a like, because what happens next wasn't supposed to happen. Marcus Webb, storm chasing isn't just what you do, it's what defines you. At 42, you've crossed Tornado Alley more times than you can count, filmed funnels that looked like fingers of God reaching down from the sky, survived hail the size of golf balls that turned the hood of your car into a field of craters. There's a YouTube channel with 300,000 subscribers, meteorological gear filling the back seat of your Ford Explorer, and one simple rule that in 15 years has never cost you even a scratch: respect the data, keep lateral distance, and never, ever get in front of a tornado. That Saturday morning starts just after breakfast, leaving Oklahoma City with the weather radio already pushing alerts since early hours. The SPC, the Storm Prediction Center, has issued a moderate risk outlook for the region, the kind of forecast that sends chasers across the state into the plains. The sky still carries that deceptively normal early afternoon tone, pale blue, high cirrus clouds that seem harmless, but beneath that calm surface, the reading is different: instability, wind shear, moisture rising from the Gulf of Mexico. 2 hours on the road lead to what you were looking for. The supercell forms over Canadian County as if the sky folds into itself, clouds twisting in a slow, hypnotic motion that signals something serious building. The car comes to a stop. The camera is mounted on the dashboard. Recording begins, your voice steady and technical as always, describing every detail for the audience that will watch this later. The funnel appears at 6:03 p.m. according to your equipment log, impressive from the very beginning, wide, well-structured, with that classic cone shape straight out of meteorology textbooks. Distance estimated at 8 kilometers, the vehicle positioned on the southern flank, the right place, the safe place according to every principle that has guided your entire career, movement tracking northeast. Standard for Oklahoma tornadoes in this kind of system, and from the south, you're out of its path, perfectly positioned to document it. A quick call to Rachel, your wife, just like always when something big forms, letting her know you're fine and that you'll be out for a few more hours. She tells you to be careful. The answer comes automatically: I always am. Neither of you knows this is the closest thing to a goodbye you've had in 20 years of marriage. The call ends. Your eyes return to the horizon, to the dark rotating mass moving across the plains, and that familiar mix of awe and adrenaline is still there, untouched, like it never faded. El Reno already feels different from anything you've seen before, but at first, that difference reads as scale, as power, as the kind of moment you capture once in a lifetime. What isn't clear yet is what it truly means: a warning, something the sky isn't finished writing. For the first 20 minutes, everything follows the script you know by heart. The tornado moves in a relatively predictable path, and the car is repositioned every few minutes, always maintaining that lateral margin, your golden rule. Other chasers are scattered across the area, visible in the distance as small flashes of parked vehicles along secondary roads, all pointing cameras at the same monster. There's a kind of silent community in that ritual, an unspoken bond between people who choose to spend the most dangerous days of the year in the most dangerous place possible. Then El Reno begins to change, not suddenly, not with any dramatic warning, gradual enough to be almost imperceptible at first. A slight shift in angle, a slowdown in forward motion, something noted mentally as worth watching. But when the numbers from the portable anemometer come into view, the first real sense of unease sets in. Wind speeds along the outer circulation are increasing in a way that doesn't match what the eye estimates from a distance. The radio shifts to the NWS channel, the National Weather Service, and the meteorologist's voice carries that controlled tension professionals use when urgency needs to be delivered without causing panic. He talks about erratic movement, a possible shift in trajectory, an expanding damage field still being assessed, and hearing that your eyes return to the tornado, and this time it's no longer read as scale, It's read as moving danger. In less than 5 minutes, what was a comfortable lateral distance turns into something that needs to be recalculated immediately. The tornado isn't just changing direction. It's growing in a way that defies the intuition of anyone who understands tornadoes. Its visible width doubles, then doubles again, and it becomes clear that the outer edges of the funnel are far closer than satellites and Doppler can relay in real time to the operators trying to warn you over the radio. Around you, the behavior of other chasers shifts. A vehicle to your left suddenly accelerates south, then another, and that nonverbal language between people who have spent years doing the same thing says more than any broadcast ever could. The silent consensus among those closest is simple: the window of safety is closing fast. First gear engages and movement begins toward the south, still controlled, still within protocol, but for the first time that day there's a clear sense that the ground has shifted without ever physically moving. El Reno is no longer behaving like a predictable tornado within a recognizable structure. It's becoming something else, something that doesn't have a name in the manuals you studied, something the data doesn't yet have the language to describe as it happens. The sky around you loses its color all at once, not gradually, not in layers. It simply stops existing as something separate from the tornado, as if the entire horizon has been absorbed into the rotation. You're driving south on Highway 81 when both side mirrors reveal something your brain takes a full second to process. The edge of El Reno is closing in, not just from the right, but from behind as well, which means the funnel has expanded enough to swallow the escape route you were relying on. Your hands turn white on the wheel, not from fear. There's too much training for that to take over, but from absolute focus, the kind that only exists when there's no room for error. Rain slams against the windshield like a curtain being pulled shut, dense enough to make the wipers useless, and driving becomes instinct, guided by the memory of a road that existed seconds ago. The sound El Reno makes isn't the freight train roar people always describe. It's something bigger, more complete, like the air itself has forgotten how to be air and turned into pure pressure. The car is pushed sideways even with all four wheels gripping the asphalt, a force with no clear direction, just increasing intensity. And for the first time in 15 years, a thought cuts through with perfect clarity. You might not make it out. Trying to accelerate south becomes impossible as debris begins to appear on the road. First small, branches, fragments of metal coming from somewhere hidden behind the rain. Then larger, a wooden plank flies past less than half a meter from the hood at a speed that makes reaction impossible. The swerve happens on pure instinct. The car slides briefly before regaining traction, and at that exact moment, the radio produces something you've never heard in a live transmission. Total silence, followed by static, as if the storm has swallowed the signal whole. The camera is still recording. That becomes clear later, much later, when the footage is watched with shaking hands and only fragments of what happened can be fully understood. The frame shows the inside of the car, your hands on the wheel, the windshield washed in white rain, and in the upper right corner, flickering in and out as visibility collapses, the wall of the tornado less than a kilometer away. The turn to the right happens without even seeing the sign, moving in the opposite direction of what was planned, guided not by data but by the only thing that still makes sense. The wind is weaker on that side, a difference of pressure so small it shouldn't matter, yet it's the line between surviving and not, and the body, trained by 15 years of reading storms, makes that call before the conscious mind can even form the question. There's an overpass about 300 meters ahead, and for one terrible second the thought hits, stop underneath it, the most common instinct in a tornado, the illusion that concrete means safety. But that's something you've always known. Overpasses are death traps. The tunnel effect accelerates the wind instead of blocking it. People have died exactly like that, trusting protection that was never real. The car passes beneath it without slowing down. What follows lasts maybe 40 seconds, but in memory it stretches into something that feels like hours. The car begins to lift, not enough to lose contact with the road, but enough for the weight to ease off the wheels, as if gravity itself pauses for a moment. One hand forces the wheel downward like that could keep the vehicle grounded, while the other pushes for more speed because the only logic left is distance, more distance. A window shatters, not from direct wind impact, but from the violent pressure difference between inside and outside as the edge of the vortex passes over the vehicle. Glass bursts inward like horizontal rain. Eyes shut on instinct, no choice in it. And when they open again, everything is still in motion, still on the road, still driving. Small cuts appear along the left arm, but they don't register. Adrenaline has already shut off what doesn't matter. The tornado passes, not as a smooth transition, but like a switch being flipped, a sudden cut of sound, pressure, and fury that simply stops existing over that space. Movement continues for a few seconds until the horizon becomes visible again. The sky to the south takes on that strange green-yellow tone of a storm's aftermath, and the silence that follows feels heavy, almost physical. The car stops in the middle of the road, or what's left of it, asphalt covered in debris, fallen poles, the outline of another vehicle overturned about 100 meters ahead. The body remains still for a stretch of time that can't be measured. Hands on the wheel, engine still running, the camera still recording the inside of the car and the side profile, an expression that will take time to recognize as your own. The door opens slowly, you step out, standing on a road buried in debris under a sky that still rumbles in the distance. Your eyes follow the path of destruction carved by El Reno across the landscape, and for the first time since it began, your hands start to shake. El Reno was confirmed as the widest tornado ever recorded in United States history, 3 kilometers and 2 meters at its peak. A measurement captured with precision by the Doppler on wheels, and one that meteorologists are still studying more than a decade later. It killed 8 people that day, including 3 experienced storm chasers who positioned their vehicles along escape routes that turned into traps when the tornado's erratic behavior made any planning based on historical patterns useless. Hours pass before leaving the area becomes possible, time spent clearing debris from the road, signaling hazards for other vehicles, checking the overturned car seen earlier. The driver is alive, injured but alive, trapped between the crushed hood and the front seat, and you stay there until the first responders arrive through the only route still partially accessible. Your hands keep shaking the entire time, not from fear, but from something else, something without a name yet, something that will take weeks to understand, as the body realizing just how close it came to the line between being here and not being here at all. The call to Rachel happens close to midnight. She doesn't need to say anything. Her breathing on the other end carries a silence that lasts 2 seconds and says more than words ever could. The answer is simple: you're okay, you're on your way back, it might take longer, the roads are still difficult. That night there are no questions, the details come later, slowly, over the following days, told in fragments, as if the full story is too large to exist all at once. The footage recorded that day becomes one of the most watched records of the El Reno tornado, not because it shows the most spectacular visuals, there are others with better angles and clearer views, but because it captures something rarer: the inside of a car, hands on a steering wheel, the sound of human breathing in front of something that was about to consume everything. People don't watch it to see the tornado, they watch it to feel what it's like to be inside the moment when nature ignores every calculation you made about being safe. Storm chasing continues after El Reno, but now there's a new rule, one that isn't written in any manual and isn't taught out loud, but is felt every time the chase begins again. When an event grows too large to fit within what you already understand, the most important data isn't in the instruments, it's in the instinct that tells you it's time to leave, and that instinct only matters if you're still alive to follow it. Storm chasing continues after El Reno, but now there's a new rule, one that isn't written in any manual and isn't taught out loud, but is felt every time the chase begins again. When an event grows too large to fit within what you already understand, the most important data isn't in the instruments, it's in the instinct that tells you it's time to leave, and that instinct only matters if you're still alive to follow it.